and welcome to the Rupeeting podcast. My name is Ayush and we have Chaitanya and Sagar on the panel this morning. It is Saturday around 11:30 a.m. and we look really energetic to do today's topic as always. But to start the day on a very positive note, uh, do you know how many people die of mosquito-related diseases a year around the world? If you had to guess.
Tough one. 1 crore.
One
क्या
crore. Okay.
इंसानियत का दुश्मन जैसा जवाब जवाब दिया इतना थोड़ी होगा
Okay, then what's your number?
500,000
500,000. Okay. Okay, I guess both of you are a little intense. You both are
10
inside
million
one.
and but 10 million and half million na.
It's about no 700,000. So 7 lakh people. That's still a lot. That's still a lot. But it's not as much as you monsters want the number of people to die of mosquitoes. But yeah, 7 lakh people die of mosquito-related diseases a year, uh, plus or minus another 20, 30,000, depending on
I
how
was close,
bad.
yeah.
I guess. I guess
Yeah.
from 50 million, yeah, you went down to 10, and that was a closer answer. Yeah.
No, he said 500,000. That is 5
Half
lakh.
million,
Just 500,000. I thought you said
Yeah,
50
yeah.
million.
500,000
Like shit.
ये
That
लाख
was
में बोलने का
हॉस्टल
प्रॉब्लम है
बना
ना
दिया
इसमें मिलियन डालना
but yeah,
ठीक है चल
that many people, and unfortunately, we hail from the country that makes up for almost 75% of those number of deaths because, I mean, we have a shit ton of mosquitoes in
so
this
half a
country.
million in India. See, I was right.
Yeah, it's low key, you
Yeah.
are right. Correct. But yeah, that's unfortunate. And the problem is that I think I mean, everyone who's reading this podcast or, I mean, reading the blog or watching this podcast would know and relate to the fact that last couple of months, mosquitoes have been especially insane. Like everyone, with whether you're in Maharashtra or you're in Uttarakhand or you're in Tamil Nadu, any part of the country, you see there's a sharp increase in the density of mosquitoes. That's also because last year's rains were terrible, so a lot of stagnant water just lying everywhere. Or if you're in a flooded region, then that caused a lot of disruption in the water system. In fact, I think one video that went really viral was the one in Pune where over the Mula Mutha River, there was an actual
Yeah,
tornado of mosquitoes that rose above
yeah.
the dirty waters of the river because it's been stagnant and unkept for so long. So yeah, horrible mosquito problem in India, and everyone's rushing to buy their good nights and their Odomoses and their electric bats. But what I mean, most people don't know is in that 5 lakh number that Chaitanya mentioned is the number of deaths we see in India. About 80% of that comes from rural India, who doesn't have access or doesn't have the money to buy the electric bat off of Amazon or buy that good night liquid vaporizer thing. They choose things. There are only two options, unfortunately. Either the coil that you see at the foot of a table in a random restaurant, or agarbattis, which are not just used for pujas, but apparently are also used as an insecticide because of the amount of smoke it produces, thereby killing mosquitoes in its radius. Both of which
Do you know
are
what that
so
coils are
harmful.
called
What are they called?
in local language?
कछुआ
Tell them.
Kachwa chap, yeah.
Oh, that's what. Oh, kachwa chap. Okay. Why is it called that? It's because of the
because
I
it
don't know.
burns
shell-like shape.
slowly. No, it burns slowly.
Oh, nice.
Ah,
Yeah, but unfortunately, because it burns so slowly, one coil or one
Kills you so
agarbatti,
slowly.
damn nicely, it'll kill your entire family slowly. Because one of those things is worth about 50 cigarettes worth of smoke, is what the Central Insecticide Board claims in India. So clearly, there's a problem because either there's no
yeah.
product available or the product that is available is so harmful, but because of its really cheap pricing, there's no alternative. So, how can a company combat innovation and pricing in such a way where it comes to that arbitrage point of, let's say, "Acha, this is the product for India"? And there's been one company that's been trying its level best and has finally nailed it after being in this business for about 30 years now. and they've had like market leadership across the urban sector and has finally started to do well in the rural areas. And that is, of course, the creators, or rather not creators, which we'll come to later, the owners of the famous brands Goodnight and Hit, Godrej Consumer Products.
Kala hit, lal hit, sab
Kala
hit.
Hit and Lal Hit. Yeah. Crazy product line that they've been building for 3 decades now, but the story behind it is also really interesting. And the fact that they've finally nailed that one product that has been able to break the harmfulness of the choices being made by the rural India because of no options being available, and also being able to price it so cheap that it's a no-brainer option now to choose for that product once it's launched well enough into the market. So we'll get to that step by step. First, I think Chaitanya has a little bit of a story to tell us about how Godrej even got into the insecticide business and how it was just almost a matter of luck and not conscious and long thought out decisions. So
Yeah, so as you rightly mentioned, the Godrej brand owns the Goodnight and Hit, but they weren't the original creator. There was a company called Trans Electra. This is back in 1994. So it was actually Trans Electra's brand, the Hit and Goodnight. So they were up for sale, and Mr. Adi Godrej, then chairman of Godrej, he decided to buy the company in just a matter of week. So he was also in competition with the then giants like Hindustan, Unilevers, and all those. But maybe he saw something, as you might have, maybe luck or maybe his business
into it.
acumen, whatever you can call
Yeah,
it.
yeah, exactly.
He acquired that whole company for 100 CR back in 1994, and that's how Godrej entered into the mosquito repellent market.
Right.
After the acquisition, immediately the next year, the American FMCG company called Sara Lee, which you guys may know from the brands such as MB Pure. So they also they acquired 51% of the part of the business which Godrej had, and that 51% they acquired for 100 CR. So their original investment was paid back in a year only. And since then, 1995 to 2010, they both jointly conducted operations of this and MBPure in India itself. Come back to 2010, 15 years later, Sara Lee was exited by Godrej itself. So Godrej bought back 51% of the Sara Lee for 1240 CR. So they made pretty good 12.5x in 15 years of time, the Sara Lee company.
Yeah.
So since 2010 till now, Godrej is now the sole owner of Kala Hit and Goodnight Wala brand.
Right.
Uh, 13 years, 14 years later, today, the company believes that the household insecticide mammoth that they have created, it is, if they sold it, if they sell it, it will be worth north of 30,000 CR. So that is 13x again from 2010. And if
Yeah.
we look at 1994, they acquired it for 100 CR. Currently, it is 30,000 CR. So that is 300 times of the brand value they have created in the span of 30 years.
Yeah.
That is something really interesting that the Godrej has did. And hence today, they are the owner of Goodnight and Kala.
Right.
Mm.
Very, very interesting story. In fact, I think they've
Yeah.
really recited this well. And if the
Mm.
viewer wants to go, I think it's in their 2021 or 22 annual report, where Adi
Mm.
Godrej's daughter has written this from her perspective when back in '94, when she was a little kid. She actually remembers
Mm.
her dad like pacing back and forth in their home, thinking, "Should I spend 100 crores on an
Yeah.
insecticide market in India where it's ruled by coils and agarbattis and nobody really wants to like make an active
It's
choice?"
extremely unorganized market.
Yeah,
Even current,
unorganized, and penetration was so low because they didn't think of
yeah,
it as that much of a problem, even though about 5
yeah.
lakh people were dying a year even back then.
Mm.
So he made a huge bet out of the blue based on just like his intuition, and then she still remembers
Mm.
it from back then. So it's a nice like little story to read, even if you want to read a little more detail as to how she has written it in the annual report.
Mm.
So yeah, pretty interesting.
It's a nice childhood sort of like. If I would like a childhood where my father's thinking, where do I spend this 100?
Yeah, yeah. It's a good problem to have as a child.
It's a good problem to have. Yeah. That's true.
Cut out of two
And that
zeros and I'll
too,
probably have a story.
yeah, I mean, 100 crores at that time would have been an insane amount of money. It's
Yeah,
an insane
adjusting
amount
for
of money
inflation, it
now.
could have been 1,000 crore.
Crazy. But yeah,
More.
they
No? Nahin.
more.
Yeah.
I mean, his assumption is
It was a random guess.
much like his random bet into this space. But yeah,
Yeah.
they entered, built. I mean, until then, I think although Transelector, as you mentioned, they were global leaders in mosquito mats. Those little things you put in the
Yeah.
burner and the electricity, whatever. So at that time, Goodnight didn't have a lot of product range. Hit didn't have a little product range. They just had the one product in each under each brand. But then 30 years later now, Goodnight has multiple variants to suit your paranoid needs, whether that's your liquid proactive plus growth nonsense, which has an amplified range, or it's Kala hit, red hit, as Chaitanya mentioned, which doesn't just kill mosquitoes but it kills various other insects with varying intensities of that aerosol spray. So not only have they increased product range, but they've also managed to price it so well that if it wasn't for just this one roadblock of coals versus agarbattis, the rest of the market has been sorted. So that's about 3,600 crores of a market that they've had like a 60 to 80% market share in. And that's something that they've grown over the past, I mean, in fact, since Sara Lee exited. That's when their true, like, let's make India an pro insecticide market. So, yeah, so the couple
All
of
out
things
is
that they, yeah,
that's the
sorry.
second one. All out is by who?
Yeah, so I mean, unfortunately, I don't know who All Out is by, but at 2010, they were the market leaders. So I
Oh, it's
think,
linked. Okay.
yeah, it flipped. It's almost like an actual
Interesting.
flip because back in 2010, they must have had what a 25% market share, whereas All Out would have had 50 at the time.
Wow, okay.
Yeah,
Hmm.
because that was the only like properly penetrated aerosol spray for insect killing purposes back then, and it was the only name that people had in their heads also in 2010. But now they
You don't
flipped
make
it.
mosquito patches, no? Nobody's, or
I
does
think
Goodnight
that's
have some?
more Goodnight doesn't because they're not in the personal insecticide space, so they're not in the sprays or the
Like
Odomos
how
type
Odomos is.
variant. Yeah,
That's a
so
spray, huh? Yeah. So
But
Goodnight
that's
doesn't
like
have.
good night
Yeah.
doesn't. No, no. So I think they've actively tried to avoid that because Odomos
But
is
that's also,
the
I think,
only.
dependent on competence, right? Like
Yeah,
you have Odomos as a spray because the parent company is an expert at skincare, personal care,
exactly. Yeah,
and those products. Whereas these guys
correct.
don't really have that, or do they?
In there.
They can
No,
actually if they
no.
want
I
to
mean,
do.
now I think the only personalized product that they have that is actually skin touching is when they've got Raymond under their belt. So they
Yeah.
finally entered the deodorant market. So that maybe like that expertise could trickle down into them creating a
Possible.
deodorant based insecticide or an insect repellent. Sorry, I keep saying insecticide. It's not it. Insect repellent. Yeah.
That'll be
Yeah,
good though. Like a
insecticide is
deodorant
agrochemical.
based one.
Like they could create a Park Avenue
Park Avenue,
insect
Machhar
repellent. Yeah,
Bhagai.
yeah, yeah. That's actually interesting.
That would be a very big downgrade for Park Avenue as a brand, I would say.
But that's the only place they can do it at, right?
Yeah, yeah.
The other brand they have is what? Kama Sutra.
Kama Sutra. Insect repellent
But one sec, Kama
condoms.
Sutra does have deodorants as well, so that's
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
uh,
It's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
they
like
don't
they
only
could
do
use that tech.
cosmetics.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. In fact, they did so even in Hit, right? Until recently, All Out again, although it was the biggest aerosol insect repellent, the problem with all of these were that the gas in itself, if it was breathed around humans, of course, it is fairly harmful. So what they did is they tried to use some kind of technology where it becomes no gas. So Hit was the first one to come out with a no gas insect repellent, and now I think that really changed the tide for them because again they priced it like 50 rupees for the bottle as opposed to the gas ones being 100 rupees for the same quantity. So
Yeah. That
having
is the
cut down,
vapor versus gas wala thing which
correct,
worked
correct,
in
same
deodorants
argument,
and stuff, right?
exactly,
Uh, the same.
same
Yeah.
argument, yeah. So yeah, that worked out really well for Hit, and just like as we mentioned earlier, just amping up the core product of the liquid vapor in Goodnight and making it into active plus, growth plus, increased range, all of that, while also coming up with subsidized variants. For example, even the refill pack now is as low as like 30 rupees, which it wasn't. It was about 50 or 60 back in 2010. So they've done the innovation and pricing in tandem to have increased penetration of insect repellents by so much that back in 2010, if urban India may 20% were using insect repellents and rural may 10%, now that has become like 44, 45% in urban and about 30% in rural in the span of 13 years, which All Out wasn't able to do at all.
Okay.
So now that, as we mentioned earlier, the market share has been flipped, where All
Mhm.
Out is maybe about 20% of the aerosol market, whereas Hit is 70%. And it doesn't even break the Goodnight market because that is the largest player in it.
And still, there's still so much room to go, right? From 44 to
Oh
100.
yeah, so
So
that's
they
the best
have
part
to take
about
market share from
it's
all out itself.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, and not even like a
Both.
market share thing. Like they're now
Right.
their only game is
Exactly.
increased penetration for India. So market
Mhm.
share they may exhaust.
Distribution, I think, is the most important
Yeah,
thing now.
exactly. So targeting that rural section of the
Yeah.
population is primary goal. And I think with this new product, it looks like at least that they've almost
Mhm.
kind of nailed that.
Yeah, after 15 minutes
Mhm.
of this, what is the new product?
So
The
yeah,
latest
Chaitanya,
edition.
the
It,
expert
it
in
is.
this arena is Chaitanya.
Oh, yeah, expert. Yeah. So the latest edition being agarbatti. So it is not what to pursue agarbatti as, not the puja wala agarbatti. It is
Right.
a insect repellent agarbatti that the Godrej is supposedly first legal manufacturer, because it is illegal to sell agarbatti as insect repellent in India, because it has, as I mentioned, the kachua chap wala thing. It also applies same to this also. It is very
Yeah.
harmful. So now what Godrej has did is they have one unique molecule called ranofluthrin, which is 2x more effective and also less harmful for health and all those things. So they have introduced that, so which apparently will open up a 1200 CR of insect repellent agarbatti market for Godrej Consumer. And currently, Godrej have exclusive right, at least for the near future, uh, for this molecule. So they are targeting to have 50% market share in those time period. So approximately 50% of 1200 CR, so 600 crores of new business they are targeting from this single product, and that will cost effective also, because it costs 10 rupees a packet, and a packet has 10 agarbatti. So you get 1 rupee per agarbatti. So that's the
Which is
cost.
almost as much as
So
the other
yeah,
players, right?
yeah. For the normal agarbatti, if you compare it,
Normal
it is
agarbatti.
also, of course, if you compare it with some premium agarbatti,
Huh.
like for example Mangaldeep, so it is cheaper also compared to that.
Right.
So yeah, so now they are trying to conquer this market as well through the agarbatti.
Yeah.
But it must be like so intuitive for like people to say ki, or think or form a connection in terms of like mental thought that अभी अगरबत्ती है and if it's getting rid of mosquitoes अगरबत्ती तो harmful हो ही नहीं सकती.
Hmm.
Huh.
Like associating it with something that is not because it's godly or whatever, just because you're
Yeah.
doing it every single day,
Yeah.
twice a day. So like obviously it's okay. Like you're just
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not going to be
Breaking
harmful.
that notion would be extremely difficult because till now, no one's, or rather, they don't care that the
Yeah.
agarbatti is as harmful as it is.
Huh.
Until Godrej has made it abundantly clear that, even in their presentations, right, that they are the only legal anti-mosquito agarbatti in the country. And that entails that while all agarbattis may not be insect repellents, they are being used as that. And if they go through a check as whether they comply with certain regulations as being anti-mosquito, none of them will clear that benchmark except for the Godrej product. So making that proposition clear that while okay, your agarbatti might be doing the job of being in your home and adhering to your puja requirements while also shooing mosquitoes away, it's also slowly killing your family. Whereas this one won't. So yeah, pretty interesting
So when is it
household
launched?
insects. It's already launched in Feb. I think we'll start
Yeah.
seeing sales reflecting either in
Like
4Q FY24 or
more like
1Q.
Q of that
Yeah,
will be like
1Q
a
FY25.
better
Yeah. First
picture.
quarter.
Yeah.
Because with Godrej, the peril of this, like while it sounds theoretically like perfectly filling the gap in the market, the
Right.
missing link is the distribution for Godrej, right? Because they're not experts at rural distribution. They don't have
Yeah.
rural centric products.
Yep.
They've been urban most of their
Throughout.
existence.
Yeah.
So
In
that
fact,
that'll be a bigger challenge.
yeah. In fact, they tried this whole rural penetration thing, I think, a couple of years ago, where they launched the Goodnight Fast Card, which is just a piece of paper that you fold and burn, and it does the job of a coil or an agarbatti. And it was priced
One
at
rupee
rupee
a bar.
one. Yeah, exactly. But that didn't seem to do much because it didn't break out people from using the coil or agarbatti simply from, as you mentioned, right, a habit perspective. If you use something on a daily basis, it's very unlikely that you're going to choose something else out of the blue when it didn't have any other unique proposition other than being a card. So it was just a different shape, same product. Now they've really innovated a new product. So if they sort distribution out, it could just change the insecticide game for rural India.
Mhm.
Or rural India just starts buying Goodnight.
Yeah, or they urbanize, correct. Yeah, true.
What
Because
time?
it is
Mosquito.
fairly cheap. It is fairly cheap. So it's not like it's unattainable for rural India, but it's more of a. I think they're trying to feed into the habits of rural India by giving them a product that's already existing in their cupboards, but just replacing it with something better. So yeah, this, but like all said and done, this business is about 35% of their revenues. 65%
Yeah.
of their business comes, they're very, very diversified, much like every other
Yeah.
FMCG player. At least like
We've
Dabur.
currently spoken about potentially a decimal of their
Yeah.
business even
Like
after
after
3 years.
all of this, it could maybe contribute to 5%, 7% of total
Yeah.
revenues. But yeah, the
Okay,
rest
so
of the
what's
businesses
your
are very, very
business?
good. So yeah, I mean the other stuff is personal care, which is room fresheners, which is Air, AER, the product that they launched again another 13,
Go there.
14
Yeah.
years ago. Another very innovative product because they were the first ones to come up with card-based room fresheners. So you just
Mhm.
like cut open a slit and then it just freshens up the room for a fairly long duration. Again, having number one spot in the room freshener market as well, whether it's the Air card or the Air spray. Then what
Mhm.
else do they have? They started it. I mean, Easy is their detergent or liquid
Fabric. Yeah.
detergent, fabric softener, whatever product. Again, something that's number one in its market because it's a very subsidized version of, let's say, your. I think what are the other variants of Vanish and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And Fairy and all of that. Those were either it's imported or it's expensive, but this tries to capture that
Mhm.
subsidized market. So yeah, personal care
Synthol.
makes up for a Synthol, another brand from back in the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
And
a
of
very
course,
brand. It's not even like a. I
Sorry,
don't know if
also they
it's
have
like.
a famous scope of Godrej number one.
Godrej number one also. Yeah, I mean technically
Yeah.
they went from
That
like
is the
so they
name
started
on
with
only.
yeah. They started their whole FMCG segment with stuff like soaps only. So
Hmm.
Synthol and number one and stuff like that were one of their first few products. And I
Hmm.
think even Synthol even now is just attributed as the dude bar soap because it says like fresh.
Hmm.
It's not a scent or a flavor, it's just fresh.
They branded it pretty well that way.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Again, Synthol also number one or number two in the whole that part of the soap market. So
Hair
yeah,
color. And then,
hair
yeah,
color may they have that
Godrej
creme.
color.
Yeah,
Godrej Expert.
Godrej Expert. another innovation that they did and brought into the market by making it the first most healthy version of hair color that they could, and most easily applicable on your own. So they'd sell you the packet, but they'd also sell you the bowl and the brush and the gloves, and say like, okay, do it yourself. And it's
Which is
also extremely cheap. Yeah, because if you go to a store, they're going to charge you like 100% premium on that entire process,
yeah,
just
or
to
you
make you
like
feel
source it
older.
from different places, right? Okay, color एक
Exactly.
जगह से लिया, बोल दूसरे जगह से.
Exactly. Which is all the more expensive. So they've, in fact, in the whole hair color space, also what they did very another like testament to their acquisition capabilities is the whole B Blunt chain of hair salons.
Yeah.
So they acquired like a 30% stake in that back in 2013. So that was about maybe 17 or 20 salons only in that, and they spent about 20-25 crores on that. 2023, Mama Earth bought it. Sorry, 2022 end, I think. Mama Earth bought that entire chain and the products that Godrej launched under Blunt, B Blunt, for about 85-90 crores. So there also they made like a 3x return in 10 years or within 10 years for no additional effort because they already had Godrej Expert in their portfolio. They just had to rebrand it and add a little innovation in color and sell it under B Blunt's X Godrej as a new product. So they
Yeah.
really nailed that whole repurposing and acquisition strategy.
But they
And
did it selling also, na. They got rid
yeah,
of
yeah,
Nature's
Yeah.
Basket too.
correct.
That went to Spencer, I think. I'm not
Spencer
sure now. Yeah.
should be, yeah. But yeah, they're really good at doing
Of
this.
course, the biggest one recently, the Raymond Group.
Yeah, generally the most amount of money they spent on an acquisition in their history.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What 2,800 crores odd
Yeah. And that was
for two
25 crore, the
brands.
big one. And
Exactly,
yeah,
So the
for
daughter's
two
daughter
brands.
is gonna remember that. Oh, my mother was pacing
My
around,
yeah,
spending
yeah.
too much
yeah.
money.
2050 annual report. Daughter
Stories
becomes
are also
chairman.
there giving inheritance.
Yeah, it'll be a holographic annual report. Hopefully, something cool will happen in annual reports back then.
It'll be on your Vision Pro, bro. You're
Oh
not
yeah,
getting.
oh god. But yeah, pretty interesting acquisition here also because they weren't really doing a lot of the personalized, like really personal. This is deodorant and condom. It doesn't get more personal than this. So
Yeah.
they really entered the whole wellness space, both sexual and otherwise. And it seems to be like a really high growth market because Park Avenue already has like number two position in the space, and so does Kama Sutra condoms have number two position in the space. So well, let's see what innovation they bring in this to amp up the brand.
There's already a beer shampoo, so they might bring wine shampoo. We don't know.
Yeah. Have you all used it though? I've used the beer shampoo.
Yeah,
It smells pretty nice.
yeah, it's good one.
I was kind of obsessed with it as a kid.
There was
Because
one
of course.
brand which had launched it. No, there was some random brand which had launched the beer shampoo, and
On that Park Avenue kind of took it.
I guess so. Uh, or they had launched it, and I just didn't know it's Park Avenue.
That's
So,
possible because I don't think
Yeah,
they
that
brought the
must be
but
fact
like,
that it's Park
I
Avenue
also,
on the forefront.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but pretty interesting stuff. Even
so
this, right? Like the revenues are about cumulatively 600 crores. So they spent 2,800 crores on a business that gives them incremental addition of 600-700 crores revenue for now. For now.
For now.
But they're expecting like a 25% CAGR growth in both of these spaces over the next 5 years. So let's see. So yeah, crazy brand. Is it crazy stock?
yeah, but like so many different products, you wouldn't be getting that. Like there are mature products, like the portfolio,
Yeah,
if you could divide between like nascent growth stage and mature products, it is
yeah,
fairly diversified across these three categories.
yeah,
So the overall growth doesn't really, for the company, show the kind of promise that you see
yeah.
in, say, one particular category or products numbers.
Correct.
So the overall numbers always seem like a okay, fair,
Meh.
good
Yeah,
performance, but nothing
correct.
like extravagant,
Oh,
right?
that's true.
Yeah.
But
That's
that's with a lot of these FMCG companies anyway. They have to diversify and increase their product portfolio and don't land up with like very sexy double-digit numbers all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a
You'll
slow
still get
burn,
some
all of this.
evaluations because like reach plus the ability to use the platform to launch more plus supremely good EBITDA margins and return ratios. That just changes the game from a
Correct.
valuation standpoint.
That is true.
So in conclusion,
In conclusion, their ability to create brands, or rather build them from existing ones, has really stood the test of time. And their ability to merge pricing and innovation in such a way where it targets virtually everyone is commendable, to say the least. And it's not something that everyone's good at. So backing, I mean, or rather just like tracking Godrej Consumer has been a treat, because a lot of these stories come up and it's so exciting to see something as simple as a 100 crore split second decision back in the 90s resulting in nationwide dominance in an industry that is now going to see maybe exponential growth,
Growth.
because of people finally realizing the fact that, oh shit, mosquitoes are far more deadly. We shouldn't be just smacking them with our palms and actually obliterating them
Yeah.
from our vicinity. And the same applies for their other product portfolios. Innovation slash plus pricing equals
The
success.
products has been hit, very big hit.
Yeah, it's been absolute hit indeed. Yeah, pretty cool.
Good night on that thought.
अरे अरे क्या बात है.
Goodbye.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you so much for watching. Uh, Stay tuned for the next week's episode where we cover yet another interesting story from the markets. Check out Rupeeting.com's website for any more expertise that we can provide in terms of a stock investing approach. And that's all for this week. Stay tuned for more, and that's a wrap.